A fearful dog to like other people. First, we'll go over some basics and then I'll show some videos to illustrate the points. Many times, fearful dogs will get used to one person in the house, usually the main caretaker, and then may be afraid of the other people in the house or people that frequently visit. Here are some tips for getting your fearful dog used to other people in your life. The first main tip is don't try too hard. You can mostly ignore the dog, and oftentimes if you try to engage with the dog too much, many times it's done in the wrong way, which will actually scare the dog more. So make sure that other people in your life are also following the guidelines about how not to scare dogs illustrated in the rest of this lesson. Another way for dogs to learn to trust people is for other people in the household to care for the dog without the main caretaker's help. This may be feeding and giving water, letting the dog out of his crate, walking, and doing other activities with the dog without the main caretaker too involved. The main caretaker may be able to give the other person some pointers, but they should not step in and do the job for them. The main caretaker also needs to set the example that the other people are part of the pack. And this may mean going up to the other people and inviting them into the house, giving them hugs before the other dogs, and generally just doing things that include them in the group. New people or visitors or other people in the home may need to use food or tether the dog to them, either with a 6-foot leash or a long line. We'll see examples of this with my husband later. And another good way for dogs to bond with people is to do activities such as hiking, and always have the fearful dog follow the person they're not too sure of on these activities. Here's my husband with Hawkeye. They kind of had a rough beginning, and it took a long time for Hawkeye to trust my husband and my husband to trust Hawkeye. You could see in this video my husband's body language is not exactly friendly. My husband has his hands on his hips, is facing the dog, and also looking at Hawkeye in the eye, resulting in Hawkeye's scared body language. So make sure your other people in the dog's life approach him in an appropriate manner, unlike my husband is doing here. Thanks to my husband for being a good sport and trying his best, the results paid off. In this photo, you can see he's facing away from Hawkeye, and Hawkeye is much more relaxed. You can see also my husband is not exactly thrilled about this experiment. People can get really frustrated when it takes a long time for a fearful dog to trust and like them. It's important to help the others in your household feel good about the efforts they're making in this regard. Watch this short clip, and then we'll discuss it in slow motion in a minute. He's like, get me off this leash. So here's the slow motion. You can see that Hawkeye and my husband are just hanging out, but as soon as my husband starts to look at Hawkeye right here, you can see him start to back away. So this is how sensitive dogs are, especially to men like my husband that have a little bit of an imposing presence. So here my husband goes to pet Hawkeye, and he bends over him a little bit and reaches his hand out. He does the right thing by going to the side of Hawkeye's face instead of over his head. But if he would have not looked at Hawkeye directly in the eyes, this would have been less intimidating for Hawkeye. And in the long run, it works out to be okay because Hawkeye accepts the affection and learns that my husband's not going to hurt him. We are using a leash between my husband and Hawkeye, so Hawkeye doesn't have the opportunity to run away like he may without the leash. So just make sure that other people in your life are very aware of how their bodies and their actions are affecting fearful dogs, and gently remind them. My husband and I do a lot of hiking, and that helped Hawkeye get used to my husband. Hawkeye would follow my husband on the hikes, and I would follow behind Hawkeye. And my husband would also give him water during the hikes when he was really thirsty. I think this helped because one, he was always following my husband's scent on adventures and getting used to my husband in a safe way and having fun while doing it. And two, my husband was providing him something he really wanted at the time, which was water. Come on. He's like, maybe I will. Here Tipton's on a long line in the yard with my husband. My husband is not expecting anything of him and just petting the other dogs to show the other dogs trust him. Otherwise, he's basically ignoring him. The leash is caught between the railroad ties, and my husband does the right thing here by walking up sideways and moving the leash out between the railroad ties without looking at Tipton.
31 days.
This is the same day, and my husband is off the left of the screen, and again, just standing in the yard with the dogs, and you can see Tipton's just kind of at the edge of the yard, just kind of minding his own business. So you see my husband's still not really trying to interact with him at all, and just kind of standing there and doing nothing. And Shiloh wants pets. Still the same day, my husband's playing with our other dog Chardonnay with his back towards Tipton. This way Tipton can observe my husband throwing the toy for Chardonnay without feeling threatened at all.
I don't know what you're standing there for.
Annie, come here. Annie.
Chardonnay. Nah. Oh, caught it.
Still the same day, my husband's now sitting in the chair to the left of the screen, and Tipton's just standing behind him, just kind of figuring him out. This is the beginning stages of forming a relationship for the other person or the new person not to do anything with the dog. Then, as the dog learns to trust them, then they can start taking them for walks, feeding them, even playing with them. And again, we did a lot of hiking with Tipton and my husband together. If you have other dogs, you can always use them to set an example and tell the new fearful dog that you are trustworthy. He might come if you call him. I was working on that yesterday with him. Maybe not. Grab the long line and bring him in a little bit. Just grab it at the end, babe. What are you doing? Oh, now we have Bossy Char blocking him. So. At first I didn't understand what my husband was doing here, but he was just stepping on the long line so Tipton couldn't run away. And that made Tipton become more curious about him and actually go up to him for a few scratches. Did he let you touch him? Sometimes I can get a few like chin scratches in a little bit. He's like, what are you doing with that toy, dog? Notice my husband is now totally ignoring Tipton and just letting Tipton be wherever he wants and observe this game he's playing with Char from the distance he wants to. You can really see Tipton's wheels turning here, trying to figure out what is going on. My husband just hung out a lot with Tipton. They did some of their favorite activities together, like watch TV. And eventually Tipton got comfortable with him to go up and get petted. Tipton loves neck scratches, and he quickly learned that it was better to have two people to scratch his neck than just one. And my husband also gave Tipton water when we were out on hikes or Tipton was really thirsty. Tipton no longer needs a long line, and notice my husband is still squatting down though, not being loud and not looming over Tipton. Men, I'm sorry, and some women too, you guys are really loud for fearful dogs, and you need to just be quiet until they get used to you. Here my husband's laying on the couch, and Tipton's still on a leash in the house in this video, but you can see he's going up to my husband and soliciting some affection. Chardonnay's being a little pushy here because she wants my husband to pet her. But nevertheless, this is a good moment because Tipton's going up for some attention. Here my dad is visiting, so Tipton gets to meet another new person. And you can see Tipton's super interested in sniffing my dad, a little hesitant when my dad reaches out to touch him, but he's still okay with it. So my dad is just talking on the phone here and basically ignoring Tipton, giving Tipton a chance to sniff him. And here Tipton's sniffing my dad's shoes without any interference from my dad. By allowing the dogs time to get to know visitors without much interaction from the visitors, the dogs then feel comfortable to go ahead and allow the visitors to interact with them. This process takes time, but as you can see, both Hawkeye and Tipton now like my husband, and their favorite game is playing out in the yard with him.